Am I the asshole for pointing out my colleague is divorced during discussion? So I was recently dragged into a conversation at work. A male and female coworker were talking across from me and I'm not sure how they got to this topic because I wasn't paying attention, but the male coworker asked if we thought it was okay for women to become a single mom through a sperm donor. Before I could say anything, my female coworker said she thought it was a bad idea since children need a mom and a dad. I asked her if she then also thought same-sex couples shouldn't have kids, to which she immediately replied they shouldn't and went on a rampage to defend her point. Now, I have multiple friends that are in a same-sex couple and some of them do have kids and they are amazing parents. So I pointed out that by her logic, she should not have kids either since she is newly divorced and that means her kids don't have a mom and dad available at all times either. Needless to say, this brought the discussion to a speedy halt. Some coworkers said AITA because she had a very bad divorce and still suffers from it, so I shouldn't have brought it up. I didn't mean to shame her because of getting divorced at all. Sometimes there is simply no other solution. I was just trying to point out that you could easily turn around her arguments against single parents or same-sex parents to reflect on her situation. So am I the asshole? Edit. Wow, this is my first time posting on here and did not expect this big of a reaction, but thank you all for your input. Looking back I could have chosen my words more carefully or opted out of the convo. I'll admit I can be a bit hot-headed if I feel strongly about a certain subject.
Not the asshole. All you did was turn her awful logic on her. If she was hurt by having her own beliefs applied to her, then she should really reevaluate those beliefs. What she said was wrong and bigoted. Going through a tough divorce doesn't excuse her of that.
These kind of discussions are incredibly unprofessional for a work environment. It shouldn't have started to begin with.
Not the asshole. She's a bigot and a hypocrite. Calling her out and thinking her own skewed logic through is not an asshole move at all. She made her bed by saying stupid stuff. You never know who's in the closet and here's her bigotry, so the fact that she says stuff that's not only factually wrong but really hurtful means she doesn't give a damn about others.
Not the asshole. You gave her the rope, she hanged herself with it.
Everyone sucks here, leaning not the asshole given new info from op mentioned in edit below. Your coworker is a bigot, but it doesn't say anywhere that they invited you into that conversation. Also, you could have made your point more gently, but just as effectively, by asking, what about people who become single parents after a divorce, rather than shoving her own divorce in her face. Did she deserve that compassion? Maybe not. Were you ultimately correct? Yes, but her asshole comments weren't directed at you in any way and it sounds like you weren't even involved in the conversation until you decided to shame her. ETA, op was invited to the conversation by name by their male colleague.
Not the asshole. People who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. You pointed out her logic flaw and it's not your issue that she's had a bad divorce.
Not the asshole. Don't fan the fire if you don't want to get burned.
Honestly, the whole conversation should have been shut down, because what the fuck? Hey, let's pass judgment on whether we think other people's life and family choices are valid, is not really a topic of conversation for work. It's none of this dude's business whether women become single moms by choice. If someone asked him to be a donor, he can work that out with his actual friends or a therapist. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Commenting on the ways other people are living their lives wrong opens you up to criticism on your own choices, so I think it's a low blow but fair. But honestly would have been better to tell them all to shut it. Not the asshole.
Not the asshole, she's bigoted and got a taste of her own medicine.
Not the asshole. Single women shouldn't be parents. Well, you're single, sue.
Not the asshole. That's a cell phone right there.
Not the asshole, she's upset because you made a logical point after her homophobic illogical point.
You offended her because she's having a tough time with her divorce, but nobody cares how she offended every single parent and same-sex couple in existence. She is entitled to her bullshit offensive opinions and can spew them out without consequence, but you have to measure your words so not to offend her? Not the asshole. You should bring up the remarks she made to HR and say these types of conversations at work are causing drama and you find it unacceptable, before she goes to HR and throws you under the bus just for upsetting her.
You were a justified asshole, but the point of this sub is to judge if you are one or not, regardless of if there is a bigger asshole, which there was in this case.
Not the asshole you just hoisted her on her own petard. Not the asshole. 1. Hypocrisy is not a free pass. 2. Having undergone a shitty event in your personal life does not mean you can dictate the personal life of others. 3. Don't be an asshole. It's really not as hard as some make it out to be. If you don't want to put in the effort to exercise basic social tact, then don't socialize.
Not the asshole. Queer people exist and are still suffering from homophobia like hers. Be a bigot, get shit talked.
Lol, not the asshole, but terrible conversation to have at work.
Not the asshole on the moral front, but it would be better in situations like these to generalize rather than be personal, when beating bigotry and discrimination. In this situation, it would be less risky for you to point out how divorced people shouldn't be allowed to raise kids either, but not specifically point out to the coworker. This gives you the evil but frequently abused, "Oh, I never meant you. I was talking about, insert group, people, in general. Why are you taking this personally? It's just a discussion, way out. It's shameful, but people who discriminate do it all the time."
She wanted to talk about it. Not the asshole.
Not the asshole. You applied her own narrow-minded and selfish views on herself and shut down her logic with it. Not the asshole rules for thee, but not for me. Not the asshole you only spoke the truth. I can't stand the attitude that some people have of same-sex parents. Children couldn't care less if they have same-sex parents or mum and dad. If they are fed and clothed and have parents who love and show them love, that's all they care about. There are far too many children who live in a traditional home with both mum and dad who have absolutely no business being parents.
I had someone make the exact same argument to me. Actually, their argument was specifically about lesbian women, saying they're violent, abusive, and that a child needs a man's touch. The misogyny of that guy was wild. And he didn't realize I was a rainbow flag woman when he was saying these things. Somehow, in that conversation I was made to feel bad. I can't believe how long I put up with that guy. I really must have been desperate. Not the asshole.
Not the asshole. Ah, did the homophobe get her feelings hurt? Cry me a river. You're in the clear. Info. How were you brought into the convo? Not the asshole. She's bigoted and would rather a kid be raised by two opposite-sex parents who hate each other than a single parent or two same-sex parents who love them. She needs to get over herself. It's 2020. Why is this still happening? Pouting.
Not the asshole. Please do not use the word shame. Nothing you said or did was shaming. If something is true, then it is not shaming.
Not the asshole. And also, no, you did not have to be nicer. Why do people always want to give bad people pity points for bad situations? It's like when you meet a violent pervert and people tell you to be nice cause his ex cheated on him, or the school shooter who was bullied. We all go through bad shit, and unless her behavior is a direct trigger reaction to trauma, fuck her. Her homophobia has nothing to do with her divorce, but it does promote hate crimes and unjust laws. ETA, if she's a teacher who's homophobic, it will definitely come out around the students and be painful and traumatic to some while empowering hate in others. If nothing else, you likely made her too embarrassed to broadcast her hate like that. And that's a good thing.
One coworker's bigoted ideas don't excuse personal attacks in the workplace. If you think what they said was inappropriate or discriminatory, then let HR or their supervisor deal with it. This is a great example of internet advice from everyone on this thread saying, "Don't dish what you can't take," not reflecting how you should act in reality. Outside of work, 100% not the asshole, but at work you gotta exercise restraint.
How is this a professional discussion? Not the asshole. I'm sorry she went through that. She is still a hypocrite.
NTA. You let her lay out her logic, and then used it to snap the door on her cage.
You're not the asshole. I would have been much nastier to her after her rant about same-sex couples. All you did was turn her hypocrite logic against her. You are not the asshole. Your coworker is a hypocrite and a homophobe. Always a good thing when those types have their hypocrisy pointed out to them.
Not the asshole. She lost the discussion and was way off a logical thread. She's bigoted and sharing her bigoted opinions at work, to the point of possibly discriminating against other coworkers. She's the asshole.
Not the asshole. Homophobes are tar. She should consider that her position also causes hurt to many people. Not the asshole. People in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. She was being ignorant and hateful but is suddenly the victim when her hypocrisy is thrown back at her.
ETA, I would have phrased it less personally. What about divorced or widowed parents?
Not the asshole. You followed her logic and applied it to her. You gave her a taste of her own medicine, but you're not the one who made it so bitter. A word of advice: in the future when you want to say something that will probably piss off the other person, frame it as a question. Asking if divorced couples fell into the same group by her logic without mentioning her specifically is more palatable than simply stating that by her logic she shouldn't have kids, but it makes your point.
She's worse, but you shouldn't be having these conversations with colleagues. It makes for an uncomfortable workplace.
I do think that it was an assholish move on your part, but I also think that she got exactly what she deserved. Sometimes you need to be an asshole, sometimes it is the right thing to do. But I also think that these things don't belong into the working environment. Being more stoic and reserved, making white lies and not taking part in discussions like this goes a long way. Being more professional and gray rock-like will make your working life so much easier.
Not the asshole. If she can't take it personal criticism, she shouldn't dish it out. Hopefully, this was a learning experience for her, in keeping her negativity to herself. Listen, I technically had two parents. They divorced when I was 18. But my dad was completely useless and only served as an example of who not to be. My mom did everything. By your coworker's logic, my experience was ideal. I would have rather been raised by just my mother any day. Your coworker was wrong, and pretty bigoted at that. Maybe you could have phrased it a little better instead of directly targeting her, but she can't double down on something like same-sex couples and single mothers have no right to be parents, then get butthurt when it bites her. Not the asshole.
She immediately replied they shouldn't and went on a rampage to defend her point. Spoiler alert, she identifies as a God-fearing, good Christian who believes blah blah blah. Nope. Sue not the asshole. She can be a judgmental, Bible-thumping TW at TOEFL, but you're not allowed to highlight her flawed, prejudiced, and bigoted logic. Who cares about her hurt feelings? If little Ms. Religious Bigot can't handle her a mirror being held up to her, she should keep her mouth shut. Of course, those types never can though. Tell your coworkers' opinions are like assholes, everyone has one and they all stink, except mine. Winking face.
Not the asshole. Make bigoted statements, get real responses. You did nothing wrong.
Not the asshole, you just called out her lack of logic. Unless her divorce was a secret that she had entrusted you with and made you promise not to mention, I wouldn't feel bad about it. Now if that had been the case, I imagine it would have been 10 times more frustrating because of how hypocritical she was being.
Not the asshole. Her choice to speak up and go on the rampage. You simply pointed out how her reasoning impacts herself.
Not the asshole. That is a solid argument on her opinion. How did she not know she was leaving herself wide open for that rebuttal?
Not the asshole. I have no problem with calling out a homophobe,